Look, the WNBA continues to get the kind of attention they shouldn't want. All right, again, Colin Cowherd is making a point to talk about the WNBA again. He does it now multiple times a week, but only when it comes to one player, or in this case, one player and what it is the rest of the league is doing to her.
Look, here's the thing about this whole Caitlin Clark trade talk that's got everyone losing their minds. Colin Cowherd just threw a match into a gasoline factory, and now we're all watching Indiana fans have a collective meltdown. The guy loves stirring up chaos, and this time he might have started an actual basketball revolution. Is he being his usual dramatic self? Obviously. But does he have a point buried under all that noise? That's what makes this whole mess so fascinating.
Caitlin Clark finished 9th in player voting. In fact, she finished behind one of her own teammates in player voting. The pettiness has no bounds. For years, the WNBA players were pointing fingers. They were saying people are sexist, we're not being promoted, we're underappreciated. And then they get the golden goose and they don't like what it looks like. When the wave hits, ride it. They wanted to fly private. They wanted to be more popular. They wanted sold out arenas. They got it. I wouldn't have guessed that Caitlin Clark would be this.
Welcome back to another episode of the WNBA finding creative ways to shoot itself in the foot. Instead of building around talent or expanding their audience, they've apparently decided to play musical chairs with their biggest attraction. The brilliant strategy being discussed? Pack up Caitlin Clark like she's excess inventory and ship her somewhere else. Because nothing says smart business like torching your most valuable asset and watching the entire operation crumble into expensive rubble.
This is clearly them cutting her down, because when you look at fan voting, obviously Clark is one, right? Because she has the most fans in the league. So that clearly biased. You go to the media voting.
She was 3.
She was 3. That actually makes sense.
I agree. She's not having the best of years this year. She's actually, her shooting is down.
Exactly.
There's been a number of situations that she's just not played her best ball. But she is still much, eons better than a lot of the other players that they voted in front of her.
Here's what everyone seems to be missing. Moving Caitlin Clark doesn't just hurt Indiana, it demolishes the league's golden goose. We're not talking about losing some random bench player here. We're talking about erasing the one person who's single-handedly dragging this franchise and honestly half the WNBA into mainstream conversation. Every packed arena, every sold jersey, every SportsCenter highlight has her DNA all over it.
A university professor in finance looked up the value of Caitlin Clark for the WNBA. This is insane. So this year, last season in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark was 26.5% of all economic activity as a rookie on the worst team in the league when she entered it. So now she has an 8-year, $128 million deal with Nike. So, she's going to eat. Merchandise in the league went up off a rookie from a Midwest-based school on the worst team in the league, 234.
Think about what happens when you take all that electricity and just mail it away. Fans don't just get disappointed, they get furious. They cancel subscriptions, return merchandise, and find something else to watch on Tuesday nights. This wouldn't just be a bad decision, it would be legendary levels of organizational stupidity with a side of complete market destruction.
I'm not going to ignore, nor am I going to take my eyes off of what transpires with the WNBA over the next 2 weeks while Caitlin Clark is out with the quad strain. And the reason why is because, let me tell you something right now. I'm not going to go to word hate. I'm not going to be out there like RG3 was saying that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark or other players hate Caitlin Clark. But I will say this. I don't think it's specific about Caitlin Clark. I think it's what Caitlin Clark represents. See, it's through no fault of Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark ball. She balled at Iowa in college. She's balled since she's been in the NBA. She came into the league last year with no break whatsoever between the college game and the pro game and did her thing.
But here's where things get really interesting. We're not just dealing with trade speculation anymore. We've got a coaching situation that reads like a revenge fantasy. The same person who used to watch Clark take cheap shots like it was entertainment is now mysteriously positioned as her mentor. What's the next move here? Hire the equipment manager who never fixed her shoes and put them in charge of player development. The lack of subtlety is almost insulting.
Caitlin Clark had another, whatever you want to call it, confrontation in a WNBA game. Like, why is this happening? The Caitlin Clark phenomenon is one that I got wrong. I never really thought that Caitlin Clark would make the difference that she has in college basketball or in the WNBA. What other sports analogies are out there that are in any way similar to the impact that one individual has had on a larger sporting universe?
This isn't about finding the right basketball fit. This is strategic placement with a clear mission. Tone down the superstar, control the narrative, and make sure everyone knows who's really running the show. Clark didn't just get a new coach. She got assigned a handler whose job description apparently includes selective memory about player safety and creative interpretation of playing time. The basketball relationship between them has all the chemistry of a wet matchstick. The offense doesn't showcase her strengths. It actively works against them. We're watching a systematic dismantling disguised as team building, and every benching during crucial moments makes the agenda more obvious.
She doesn't always get the consistent great star whistle. I think they're still kind of figuring out how to officiate her. Right? Like when I've said this for years when I covered Shaq and went to Shaq got fouled more than anybody I've ever seen. I mean, it was insane. People bounced off Shaq. Jokic complains constantly, like people are bouncing off me. She doesn't quite get as favorable a whistle as you think. So I think
the motivation here isn't complicated. When a league finally gets mainstream attention, the last thing leadership wants is that attention concentrated around one uncontrollable player. That's destabilizing. That creates leverage they can't manage. So what's the solution? Install someone who specializes in managing big personalities, rapid and professional development language, and hope nobody notices the obvious sabotage. This coaching hire wasn't about basketball strategy, it was about power dynamics. The conspiracy isn't hidden, it's practically announcing itself through a megaphone. Don't let anyone convince you this is normal franchise building. Clark isn't going through typical rookie adjustments. She's being systematically minimized like a threat to organizational hierarchy. This whole situation reeks of personal vendetta masquerading as basketball philosophy, and everyone involved is pretending there's some master plan when the real plan is obviously damage control.
So we all know who Caitlin Clark is. She's the golden goose, laying those golden eggs for the WNBA to prosper. Well, a lot of times we notice that the WNBA is resisting this golden goose and resisting this bump and this force of nature, which is Caitlin Clark. So we're going to dive deep into that. What's behind that? Is jealousy, envy, pettiness, all the above, more than that?
The comedy here is that nobody's buying the act. This isn't strategic chess, it's workplace harassment with whistles and clipboards. Fans see through it, media personalities are calling it out, social media is roasting it daily. Meanwhile, the rest of the league is probably praying Clark gets traded because they know what would happen if she landed somewhere that actually wanted to win. Drop her in Las Vegas and watch them sell out every road game for 2 seasons. Send her to New York and she'd be on billboards before her first practice. But keep her trapped in this toxic situation and you're basically storing dynamite in a refrigerator. Nothing explosive happens and everyone walks away disappointed.
So it's the last part of it, the players vote, that I take some exception to. And I'm not a big Caitlin Clark fan. Like, I don't care either way. But they vote her 9. And why I find that absolutely hilarious is you can say she's 9 if you want, but you don't treat her like she's 9, because when she was here in town, they were picking her up 3/4 court the entire game, and they had her double teamed the entire game. Now, is your shooting efficiency going to go down?
The argument that trading her would somehow benefit the team is completely backwards. Benefit who exactly? The lottery chances, the backup players' confidence levels, the marketing department that's already overwhelmed trying to keep up with Clark merchandise demand. Without her, Indiana doesn't rebuild, they disappear. Clark represents the only reason national television bothers covering WNBA highlights. She's why casual sports fans who couldn't name 5 WNBA teams 6 months ago are suddenly debating defensive rotations and draft strategies. You don't trade that kind of cultural impact, you protect it like national treasure.
Caitlin Clark was number 1 among fans, number 3 among media. What do you think she was among players?
Dead last.
It's just not last.
No, not last, no. But
barely made it to the top 10. So she was 1, 3, and 9. Dick Vitale went off on a whole rant. It is pure jealousy. Someday these players will realize what she has done for them. They now have chartered planes, increase in salaries, sold out crowds, improved TV ratings. Stop being jealous haters on Caitlin.
If someone actually wanted to destroy that momentum, benching your biggest star would be step 1. Hiring someone with a documented history of sidelining her would be the perfect finishing move. Just make sure it looks professional, throw around corporate buzzwords like adaptability and system integration. Keep the public relations clean while the internal sabotage runs deeper. It's actually impressive how orchestrated everything appears, like boardroom executives specifically sought out the one person guaranteed to make Caitlin Clark look expendable. Because that's clearly the objective here: deflate the excitement, flatten the growth curve, and restore the previous power structure where no individual player threatens the established order.
Now let's look at the viewership, right? So I'm looking at here. So before the WNBA, before Caitlin arrived, the WNBA averaged around 300,000 to 400,000 viewers per game on national television, right? 300,000 to 400,000 viewership, right? The 2023 season, they said they saw an average of 367,000 viewers, right? When Caitlin Clark came, with her presence, viewership has increased with some games drawing over 1 million viewers, right? Caitlin Clark's WNBA draft for her drew 2.45 million viewers. That's crazy. So that means these people and what she did in college and bringing them all to the WNBA scale, people are watching the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark.
This isn't about patience or rookie development cycles. This is about authority. Authority the league doesn't want concentrated in one player's hands. Authority that front office executives don't want walking into press conferences and dominating storylines. Authority that challenges business as usual with every highlight reel play and record-breaking performance. The organization could have embraced this phenomenon, could have built something special around generational talent. Instead, they constructed barriers and appointed someone to stand guard with a clipboard, pretending there's no volcano about to erupt behind them. Trading her wouldn't just be organizational malpractice. It would be a public declaration that progress and fan engagement don't matter compared to maintaining control. And when people inevitably stop watching, stop buying tickets, stop caring, don't act shocked.
There's a lot of hate on Caitlin Clark, and I think because she's white, because she's a hooper and she's going out there and bust people's ass every single night, and it's this little pretty petite country girl that you're not expecting. Again, she's not super athletic, she's not super big, but boy, can she shoot that ball, and she is must-watch TV. I think when she was hurt a few weeks ago, they said viewership dropped by 52%.
Keep right on benching her then. Keep explaining it away with meaningless coach speak and recycled talking points about roster balance. But don't act surprised when attendance drops, when television ratings crater, when your franchise player decides she's had enough of the political games and takes her massive fan base somewhere that appreciates winning basketball. And when that exodus happens, don't blame the supporters, don't blame the journalists, don't even blame Caitlin Clark. Just look directly at the front office decision makers, the coach with obvious personal issues, and the league leadership that enabled this entire disaster, and acknowledge that you completely destroyed something special.
When we talk about hatred, when we talk about jealousy, when we talk about pettiness, Caitlin Clark's name always pops up because that's what she receives on a daily basis. And for the players to vote her 9th in guards just lets you know how out of touch they are. And it's not because of her game. is simply because of those three things that I mentioned. She was ranked first by the fans, which makes sense. She was ranked number 3 by the media, which kind of makes sense. Anywhere between the 1, 2, or 3rd, that's fine. And then she was ranked 9th by the players.
Just when you thought the organizational incompetence couldn't get more transparent, they've basically put Caitlin Clark under a microscope with all the discretion of a marching band at midnight. At this point, calling it conspiracy theory feels insulting. It's more like performance art. The commissioner, coaching staff, and every executive in the building appears to be reading from the same script titled How to Humble Your Biggest Star in Record Time. Poor Clark probably just wanted to play basketball, sign some autographs, and bring respectability back to Indiana. Instead, she's been dropped into the middle of what feels like organized institutional sabotage disguised as character development. You can practically hear ominous music playing every time she gets substituted for someone averaging single digits and frequent trips to the trainer. Her crime seems to be succeeding too quickly and being too well liked by actual fans. That's literally the violation. She entered the league with the audacity to be nationally beloved on day one, and now the power structure is treating her like she showed up carrying weapons instead of jump shots. What we're seeing isn't basketball anymore. It's systematic punishment with scoreboards and statistics. And look, Clark isn't out here creating drama or posting cryptic social media messages. She's not staging locker room rebellions or skipping practice. She's basically a tall, wholesome, sharp-shooting representation of Midwestern values trying to survive in a league that apparently treats popularity like infectious disease. Meanwhile, the WNBA resembles some twisted corporate soap opera, where everyone smiles during interviews while sharpening knives behind closed doors. Don't try to convince anyone that coaching hire was coincidental. The same person who previously showed Clark about as much concern as a parking meter attendant suddenly gets promoted to mentorship role. That's like hiring a fox to manage the chicken coop security system. Everyone knows exactly how that story ends, and while they keep serving up press conference sound bites about team culture and shared leadership, the real culture being established here seems built around diminishing Clark's influence. They don't want her directing traffic, they want her following directions, not center stage but somewhere in the background holding towels while others handle the spotlight. They're cultivating an environment where Caitlin Clark's individual brilliance doesn't drive the conversation. They want some sanitized, everybody gets a trophy atmosphere where no single player overshadows the institutional machine. It's giving communist basketball with modern branding. Clark gets treated like an uninvited celebrity at her own league's party. She's useful for promotional materials, but once those cameras stop rolling, she gets sent to timeout for the crime of making everyone else look ordinary. And you think the commissioner doesn't know exactly how this whole charade appears? She's sitting courtside with her popcorn, nodding approvingly, while pretending not to notice CC getting benched during winning time. This is all intentional. A comprehensive public relations makeover designed to remind everyone that individual players don't matter more than organizational control, unless those players fit whatever image they're trying to project, which Clark apparently doesn't. Because honestly, Clark doesn't perform the way they want their product package. She's not gritty in their approved fashion. She's not controversial in that curated rebellious way they prefer marketing. She's a wholesome destroyer from Iowa, and that doesn't match the calculated drama they're trying to sell. So the plan becomes gradually wearing her down piece by piece until she either conforms to their vision or breaks under the pressure. What everyone's witnessing isn't cultural evolution, it's reputation destruction with professional lighting. A deliberate, methodical reduction of her presence and impact. The new operating manual says no more celebrating individual excellence, no more letting rookie sensations carry television ratings, no more building franchises around viral highlights and merchandise sales. Now it's all about collective achievement and shared storytelling. Translation: minimize the superstar until she fits the predetermined mold, or at least stops threatening to shatter it completely. And the supporters see everything crystal clear. You can feel it in every frustrated cheer, every angry social media post, every disgusted reaction during game. She represents the reason people who haven't watched women's basketball in decades suddenly know Indiana's schedule by heart. She's like a walking economic stimulus package for the entire league, and instead of capitalizing on that gift, they're actively trying to edit her out of the story before she finishes writing the opening chapter. Now we have this bizarre league-sponsored campaign of polite aggression. She's technically on the roster, but not really featured prominently. She gets praised during media sessions, but mysteriously benched during important stretches. They discuss her contributions while refusing to construct anything meaningful around her talents. It's like watching someone deliver a standing ovation while keeping their arms firmly crossed. Meanwhile, leadership keeps dropping corporate buzzwords like breadcrumbs, development, equality, systematic growth. All that executive yoga philosophy that sounds profound but means absolutely nothing when your most talented player sits on the sideline watching her team lose by 20 points. It's a public relations fog machine, so dense you'd need satellite imagery to see through it. Here's the most insulting part though. They actually believe they're fooling people. They think fans will just nod along and say, sure, this is about balance and process, while watching generational talent get micromanaged by someone with an obvious personal grudge. Spoiler alert, nobody's buying any of it. This isn't balanced, it's bad community theater with basketball uniforms. Eventually Clark will face a choice: stay in this manufactured drama or demand relocation to an organization that actually prioritizes winning basketball games over political point scoring, because the league has attached its entire relevance to her success without ever publicly acknowledging that reality. The whole ecosystem revolves around Clark, while everyone pretends she's just another player in the rotation. But remove her from the equation and you don't just lose talent, you lose the gravitational force holding everything together. And the WNBA can act as shocked as they want when it happens. But if Caitlyn finally decides she's had enough, she won't be remembered as the problem. She'll be remembered as the one who escaped. And everyone else still standing there trying to pretend this was all part of some master plan.